Jake Sullivan wiped the grease from his hands and stared at the broken engine in front of him. The hoverbike belonged to a Draken merchant who complained about everything Jake did. It did not matter that Jake had fixed the impossible problem. The merchant still looked at him like he was dirt on expensive boots. That was life on Earth in the year 2287. 50 years had passed since aliens first came to the planet. The Draken Empire had claimed Earth as their territory before humans could even build proper spaceships. Now humans were allowed to live and work in the galaxy, but always as the small ones, the weak ones, the ones who needed permission for everything. Jake's repair shop sat in the old part of Detroit where factories used to make cars before the world changed. Most of the big buildings stood empty now. People had moved to the new cities the aliens built. But Jake stayed. He liked the old machines. He liked fixing things that other mechanics said were impossible to fix. The door chimed. Jake looked up and nearly dropped his wrench. A Draken stood in the doorway. Not just any Draken, but one of the rich ones. Her scales were deep red like wine, and they caught the light when she moved. Her wings folded against her back in a way that looked both natural and elegant. She was taller than Jake, maybe 7 feet, and her yellow eyes studied everything in the shop. "Can I help you?" Jake said. He tried to keep his voice steady. Rich Draken did not usually visit small repair shops in old Detroit. The Draken smiled, showing teeth that were sharp but somehow not threatening. "You are Jake Sullivan. You repaired the cargo freighter that belonged to Captain Vex 3 weeks ago?" Jake nodded. "Yeah, that was me. The power core was fried. Most places wanted to scrap it, but you did not scrap it. You made it work. Captain Vex said the ship runs better now than when it was new." The Draken walked further into the shop. "My name is Zylara. I invest in businesses across this sector. I look for talent in unexpected places." Jake felt suspicious. Nothing good ever came from aliens who talked about talent and investment. Usually they wanted to buy something cheap and sell it expensive. Or they wanted to steal ideas and claim them as their own. "What do you want?" Jake asked. Zylara looked around the cramped shop. "You are too good to be working in a place like this. I have purchased a large industrial facility on the edge of the city. An old automobile factory from before first contact. I want to lease it to you for a very small amount of money." Jake laughed. It was not a happy laugh. "Why would you do that?" "What is the catch?" "The catch is simple. I want you to build me a ship. A custom vessel designed to my specifications. I will provide the basic materials. You provide the skill and creativity." Zylara pulled out a datapad and showed Jake the plans. It was a medium-sized cargo ship. Nothing fancy, but the design was good. "This would take months," Jake said. "Maybe a year. I am patient." Zylara's eyes gleamed. "And I believe you can do things others cannot. Will you at least look at the facility before you decide?" Jake thought about it. He had nothing to lose by looking. "Sure." "When?" "Now would be good." They took Zylara's car, which was much nicer than anything Jake had ever ridden in. The seats adjusted to his body and the windows showed information about everything they passed. The drive took 20 minutes through parts of Detroit that Jake rarely visited. Old factories and warehouses lined the streets. Most were falling apart. The building Zylara stopped at was enormous. It was 5 stories tall and took up an entire city block. The walls were old brick and concrete, but they looked solid. Big doors stood closed at the front. "This place made cars," Zylara said as she unlocked the doors. "Thousands of them every month. Then the Draken came and suddenly no one needed cars anymore. Everyone wanted hover vehicles and shuttles. This factory has been empty for 40 years. Inside, the factory was even bigger than it looked from outside. The main floor had high ceilings supported by steel beams. Old assembly line equipment still stood in places covered in dust. Light came through dirty windows near the ceiling. Jake's footsteps echoed as he walked through the space. "There are multiple work bays," Zylara pointed out. "Loading docks on the east side. Offices upstairs if you need them. And there is a large basement level for storage." "Can I see the basement?" Jake asked. "Of course." They went down metal stairs that creaked under their weight. The basement was darker than the main floor. Zylara found a light panel and the space lit up. It was another huge room, though the ceiling was lower here. The floor was smooth concrete with strange patterns in it. Jake noticed them but did not think much about it at first. Old buildings always had weird stains and marks. "What do you think?" Zylara asked. Jake walked around the basement. It smelled like old concrete and machine oil. Good smells to him. "This is perfect. Too perfect. Why are you really doing this? Xylara turned to face him directly. Because my people think humans are primitives who got lucky. They think Earth has nothing to offer except cheap labor and raw materials. I think they are wrong. I have traveled across the galaxy and seen many species. Humans have something special.
You solve problems in ways no one else thinks of.
You take broken things and make them better than new. I want to invest in that talent before everyone else realizes what they are missing. Jake studied her face. Draken were hard to read, but she seemed honest. And even if she was not, what did he have to lose? His current shop was too small. He was going nowhere working on hoverbikes for merchants who treated him like trash. Okay, he said. I will do it. But I need to bring in some help. I cannot build a ship alone. Hire whoever you need. I will cover reasonable wages. Xylara pulled out a contract on her datapad. The terms are simple. You build my ship. I pay for materials and provide this facility for minimal rent. When the ship is complete, you can continue using the facility for your own projects. We split any profits from future work 60-40 in your favor. Jake read the contract carefully. It really was that simple. No hidden clauses about giving up rights to his work. No demands for exclusive service. It was almost too good to be true. He signed it anyway. Over the next week, Jake moved his equipment into the factory. He brought Carmen Rodriguez with him. Carmen was a software engineer who could make any computer system work, even alien ones. She was the only person Jake fully trusted. This place is huge, Carmen said as they carried tools into the main floor. We could build 10 ships in here. Let us start with one, Jake said. Come on, I want to show you the basement. We can use it for storage. They went downstairs. Carmen looked around with approval until she saw the floor. She stopped and stared at the patterns in the concrete. Jake, do you see this? See what? These patterns. They are not random. Carmen knelt down and traced her finger along the lines. This is geometric, mathematical. And look, they seem to move when I'm not looking directly at them. Jake knelt beside her. She was right. The patterns did seem to shift slightly at the edge of his vision. That is weird. Maybe it is some kind of optical illusion from the old concrete. Carmen pulled out a scanner from her tool bag. Let me check something. She ran the scanner over the floor. The device beeped and showed readings that made no sense. Jake, this is not concrete. I mean, there is concrete here, but underneath it there is something else. Something that is giving off a very faint energy signature. What kind of energy, I do not know. I have never seen a reading like this before. Carmen stood up and looked at Jake. Should we tell Xylara about this? Jake thought about it. Part of him said yes, they should report anything unusual, but another part of him was curious. What if it was nothing? What if telling Xylara caused problems before they even started building the ship? Let us figure out what it is first, Jake said. Then we can decide what to do. That night, after Carmen went home, Jake came back to the factory alone. He stood in the basement staring at the patterns. The more he looked at them, the more they seemed to pull at his attention. Without really thinking about it, he reached down and touched one of the lines. The world changed. The floor became transparent like glass. Below it, Jake could see another room. A massive chamber that should not exist because it went deeper than the basement should allow. The chamber was full of light that came from nowhere. Strange structures made of crystal rose from the floor. In the center of the chamber stood something that looked like a control panel, covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. Jake pulled his hand back and the floor became solid concrete again. His heart pounded. He stood there for a long time, breathing hard, wondering if he had imagined the whole thing. Finally, he reached down and touched the pattern again. The floor became transparent once more. The chamber was still there, waiting. This time, Jake did not pull away. He studied the chamber carefully. There had to be a way down there. He moved his hand along the pattern, following the lines. When he reached a point where several lines met, the floor did more than become transparent, it opened. A section of concrete simply was not there anymore, revealing stairs that led down into the impossible chamber below. Jake stood at the edge and looked down. Every logical part of his brain said to walk away. Call the authorities. Tell Xylara. Do anything except go down those stairs into a chamber that violated every law of physics he knew. But Jake had never been good at listening to the logical part of his brain. That was why he was good at fixing impossible problems. He took a... The chamber was like nothing Jake had ever seen. The air felt different down here. cleaner somehow, like it was being made fresh every second. The crystal structures rose 20 feet high, and they pulsed with soft light that came from inside them. The light was warm and cold at the same time, if that made any sense. It probably did not, but Jake's brain was having trouble processing everything he saw. He walked toward the control panel in the center. His footsteps made no sound. The floor here was smooth like polished stone, but warmer than stone should be. As he got closer to the panel, symbols appeared in the air above it. They floated like holograms, but more solid. The symbols shifted and changed, cycling through what looked like different languages. Then the symbols became English. "Welcome," they said. "Archive access granted. Initiating interface protocols." Jake stopped breathing for a moment. This was real. This was actually happening. He was standing in some kind of alien facility under his new factory, and it was talking to him in English. "What are you?" Jake asked. His voice sounded small in the huge chamber. The symbols rearranged themselves. "This facility is a repository of knowledge and tools created by the architects. We are a species that existed long before your current galactic civilization. This archive was placed here to be discovered by those with the curiosity and skill to find it. You have activated this site through proper recognition patterns. You are now designated as primary operator." Jake's mind raced. The architects were famous across the galaxy. Every species had stories about them. They had built things millions of years ago and then vanished. Most of their sites were broken ruins. Sometimes explorers found pieces of their technology, but it rarely worked anymore. This archive looked like it was built yesterday. "What can you do?" Jake asked. "This archive contains manufacturing capabilities, design databases, material synthesis systems, and educational protocols. Current available functions include fabrication of components, analysis of existing technology, and access to stored knowledge. Would you like a demonstration?" "Yes," Jake said. "Show me." One of the crystal structures near the wall began to glow brighter. A section of it opened like a door, and inside Jake could see what looked like a workshop. Tools hung on the walls. Some he recognized. Others made no sense. A workbench stood in the center with a surface that seemed to shift and change texture. "This is a basic fabrication station. It can produce components from raw materials or synthesize materials from base elements. Please specify desired output." Jake thought for a moment. "Make me a wrench." A standard adjustable wrench, 20 centimeters long steel alloy. The workbench glowed. Light gathered above its surface and solidified. In less than 5 seconds, a wrench lay there. Jake walked over and picked it up. It was perfect. The weight was right. The adjustment mechanism moved smoothly. The metal felt slightly different from normal steel, denser somehow, but otherwise it was exactly what he had asked for. "How long would it take to make something bigger?" Jake asked. "Like a ship engine, dependent on complexity and size. A standard fusion drive core suitable for medium cargo vessel would require approximately 4 hours. An advanced propulsion system using architect design principles would require 12 hours but would exceed performance of any current galactic standard by significant margins." Jake's heart started beating faster. This changed everything. With this archive, he could build anything. He could create technology that would make Draken military ships look slow. He could put Earth on equal footing with the major powers, or he could keep it secret and use it carefully. That was probably the smarter choice. Powerful people did not like it when someone upset the balance. He needed to tell Carmen. But carefully. Jake went back upstairs. The portal closed behind him when he stepped off the stairs. The floor became solid concrete again. The patterns were still there, but now Jake knew what they meant. They were a lock and a key and an invitation all at once. He called Carmen. She answered on the second ring. "You need to come to the factory." "Right now, it is 2 a.m, Carmen said. "I know. This cannot wait. Trust me." Carmen arrived 30 minutes later. Jake met her at the door and took her straight to the basement. He showed her the patterns and then touched them. The floor became transparent. Carmen's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Come on," Jake said. He opened the portal and led her down the stairs. Carmen walked through the chamber like she was in a dream. She touched the crystals. She examined the control panel. She went into the fabrication workshop and ran her scanner over everything. Finally, she turned to Jake with wild eyes. "Do you understand what this is?" she said. "This is an architect archive. A working one. There are maybe 5 of these in the entire galaxy, and most of them are owned by governments or megacorporations. This technology could change everything. I know, Jake said. That is why we need to be careful. If we tell anyone about this, it will be taken away. Earth does not have the power to protect something like this from the Draken or the other major species. Carmen nodded slowly. So what do? We use it. Carefully. We build Zalara's ship using the Archive's technology. We make it look normal on the outside but use architect systems inside. When people see what we built, they will think we are just really good engineers. They will not know about the Archive. That is a huge risk, Carmen said. What if someone figures it out? Then we deal with it. But I would rather take the risk than hand this over to people who will use it to keep humans in their place. Jake looked at her seriously. I need to know if you are with me on this. If you are not, I understand. But I cannot do it alone. Carmen was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. I am with you. Let us build something amazing. Over the next 2 weeks, Jake and Carmen learned to use the Archive. The system was incredibly smart. It could answer questions, show them how to operate equipment, and even teach them about principles of physics that human science had not discovered yet. The Archive explained that the architects had designed their vaults to be educational tools as well as manufacturing centers. Jake started building Zylara's ship. He used the Archive to fabricate the key components. The power core was architect designed but looked like a modified fusion reactor. The structural beams were made from synthesized materials that were stronger than anything humans normally used, but not so different that they would raise immediate questions. The engines were the real prize. They would make the ship 3 times faster than a standard cargo vessel, but Jake designed the housing to look conventional. Carmen worked on the computer systems. She used the Archive's help to create software that could interface between human technology and architect systems. It was like teaching 2 people who spoke different languages to work together, hard but possible. The end result was a ship control system that was far more efficient than Galactic standard. They needed more help. Jake brought in 3 more people he trusted. Marcus Cole was a welder who could work with any material. Lisa Chen was a software engineer who was even better with computers than Carmen. Danny Ortiz was a former pilot who understood ship dynamics better than anyone Jake knew. Jake showed them the Archive. Each person reacted differently. Marcus whistled low and said this was the best secret he ever kept. Lisa immediately wanted to understand how everything worked. Danny looked at the ship designs in the database and started laughing with pure joy. We are going to build the fastest ship in the sector, Danny said. No, the fastest ship in 10 sectors. The team swore to keep the secret. They understood what was at stake. This was not just about building a ship. This was about proving that humans could compete with the species that had been keeping them down for 50 years. Zylara visited every 2 weeks to check progress. Jake was always careful during her visits. He made sure the main floor looked like a normal shipyard. Components were scattered around in various stages of assembly. The team acted like they were doing everything by hand. Down in the basement, the portal stayed closed. Zylara never had any reason to go down there. Your progress is impressive, Zylara said during one visit. She walked around the ship's frame. Most human operations would still be working on the basic structure. You already have the frame complete and are installing systems. We work efficiently, Jake said, and we do not take long breaks. Zylara looked at him with her sharp yellow eyes. I chose well when I picked you for this project. The Draken respect capability. You and your team have more of it than most of my people realize. Jake felt a little guilty lying to her. Zylara had given him this opportunity. She treated him with respect when most aliens did not, but he could not tell her about the Archive. Not yet, maybe not ever. The risk was too great. After 3 months, the ship was almost complete. It looked beautiful. The hull was smooth and aerodynamic. The engines were mounted in a configuration that Danny said would give perfect thrust balance. Inside, the control systems were clean and intuitive. A pilot would be able to fly this ship with minimal training, but hidden in the frame and the engines and the power core was architect technology that made this ship something special. Something that should not exist according to galactic standards. Jake stood looking at his creation and felt both pride and fear. Pride because they had built something amazing. Fear because he knew that once this ship flew, nothing would be the same. The ship lifted off the ground like it weighed nothing. Danny's hands moved over the controls with practiced ease, but his eyes were wide. This is incredible, he said through the communication system. The response time is perfect. No lag at all. Jake sat in the co-pilot seat watching the displays. All systems showed green. The Architect power core was running at barely 20% capacity, and they were already moving faster than most ships at full thrust. "Keep it steady for now," he said. "Let us not attract too much attention on our first flight." Danny nodded, but Jake could see he wanted to open up the engines and really fly. They had named the ship Phoenix because it represented something rising from ashes. Jake hoped that name was not too obvious. Sometimes the best way to hide was to be bold. They flew a basic pattern around Earth orbit. Everything performed perfectly. The ship handled like a racing vessel, but had the cargo capacity of a freighter. The stealth systems that the archive had helped them install made the Phoenix harder to track on scanners. Not invisible, that would be too suspicious, but fuzzy around the edges. "Okay," Danny said after 30 minutes. "Can I push it a little, just to see what she can do?" "Small push," Jake said. "Nothing crazy." Danny increased power to the engines. The Phoenix accelerated smoothly. They were moving at speeds that would strain a military patrol ship. The hull did not even shudder. Danny laughed. "This is beautiful. This is art. Can I go faster?" Jake was about to say no when his display lit up with warnings. They had been noticed. Multiple tracking systems had locked onto them. Someone was paying attention. "Bring us back," Jake said. "Standard speed. We have drawn enough eyes already." Danny slowed the Phoenix to normal cargo ship speeds and headed back toward Detroit. The landing was perfect. They sat down in the factory's loading area. Jake sat in his seat for a moment after they landed, his mind racing. That test had gone too well. They had been too fast, too smooth. People would have questions now. Carmen met them as they exited the ship. Her face was worried. "We have a problem. About 50 different monitoring stations picked up the Phoenix during the flight. They all noted unusual performance characteristics. And we are getting communication requests from the Galactic Trade Authority. They want to inspect the ship." Jake cursed quietly. That was fast. "How long do we have? They want access tomorrow." Carmen handed him a datapad with the official request. They are being polite but firm. This is not optional. The team gathered in Jake's office. They needed a plan. Marcus suggested they hide the most advanced components, but Carmen pointed out that inspectors would notice empty spaces where systems should be. Lisa thought they could fake records showing they used experimental but legal modifications. Danny just wanted to tell everyone to back off and let them fly their ship in peace. "We need to tell Zylara," Jake said finally. "She owns the ship. She has a right to know what is happening, and maybe she can help us deal with the inspectors." Jake called Zylara and explained the situation. He did not mention the archive yet, just said that the test flight had attracted attention. Zylara arrived at the factory within an hour. She looked at the Phoenix with new eyes, seeing it properly for the first time. "Explain to me how you built a ship that moves faster than Draken military vessels," Zylara said. Her voice was calm but hard. "And do not tell me it is simple good engineering. I have invested in enough projects to know when something is impossible." Jake made a decision. If he wanted Zylara's help, he needed to trust her with the truth. He gestured toward the stairs. "There is something I need to show you. Downstairs." They went to the basement. Jake opened the portal. Zylara stared at the chamber below with complete shock on her face. Her wings spread slightly, an automatic Draken reaction to surprise. "This is an architect archive," she said quietly. "A functional one. On Earth, in this building." "How long have you known about this?" "Since the first week," Jake said. "I found it by accident. Or maybe it found me. The archive says it was waiting for someone to activate it." They went down into the chamber. Jake showed Zylara everything. The fabrication stations, the design databases, the educational systems. He explained how they had used the archive to build the Phoenix, incorporating architect technology while making it look conventional. Zylara listened to everything without interrupting. When Jake finished, she was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "Do you understand what this means? If my government learns about this archive, they will claim it. They will say Earth is Draken territory, so anything found here belongs to the Empire. Your species will lose control of this technology." "I know," Jake said. "That is why I kept it secret. That is why I am trusting you now. I need your help to protect this, not just for me or my team, but for all of humanity." Zylara folded her wings and looked at Jake directly. "What you are asking is for me to betray my people, to help humans hide something that could shift the balance of power in the galaxy. I am asking you to do what is right, Jake said, not what is easy or what benefits the Drachen Empire. The architects left this here to be found. They did not specify who should own it. We found it. We activated it. It should be ours. Xylara was silent for another long moment. Then she did something Jake did not expect. She laughed. It was not a happy laugh, but it was not angry either. You are right, she said. I have spent years thinking the Drachen way of doing things is natural and correct. But maybe it is just convenient for us. Maybe we keep other species down because it is easier than treating them as equals. So you will help us? Jake asked. Yes. Xylara's eyes gleamed in the strange light of the chamber. I will help you. Not just because it is right, though it is, but because I am curious to see what happens when humans are given the tools they need to compete. I think the galaxy is about to become much more interesting. They went back upstairs and made a plan. Xylara would use her influence to guide the inspection. She would present documentation, showing that the Phoenix used experimental modifications that were technically within galactic regulations. The inspectors would find advanced systems but nothing obviously architect. Xylara would claim that human ingenuity combined with Drachen investment had produced these results. It was a thin story, but with Xylara backing it, the inspectors would have to accept it. For now, the real question was what would happen after the inspection. The inspectors arrived the next morning, 3 of them. 2 Drachen and 1 Vryn. The Vryn was tall and thin with blue skin and too many fingers. All 3 looked at the Phoenix like scientists examining an interesting specimen. They spent 4 hours examining every system on the ship. They ran diagnostics. They checked component serial numbers. They questioned Jake and his team about construction methods. Jake answered honestly whenever possible and vaguely when necessary. Xylara stood by looking bored and rich like someone who paid for results and did not care about details. The lead inspector finally approached Jake and Xylara. The ship is impressive, he said. Some of the modifications are unusual, but we find no clear violations of galactic technology regulations. You may operate the vessel. However, he continued, this ship will be monitored. Any further unusual performance will trigger additional investigation. We recommend you operate within normal parameters for cargo vessels. Of course, Xylara said smoothly. We have no intention of causing disruption. The inspectors left. Jake felt relief wash over him. They had survived the first test, but he knew this was just the beginning. That night, someone tried to break into the factory. The security system alerted Jake at home. He rushed to the building and found 3 figures trying to cut through the basement wall with industrial tools. They wore no identification, but Jake recognized the equipment. It belonged to Kyrax Industries, a Drachen corporation that competed with Xylara's business. Jake called the police, but before they arrived, something strange happened. The archive activated its defensive systems. The patterns on the floor began to glow. Small drones emerged from hidden panels and surrounded the intruders. The drones did not attack, but they made a high-pitched sound that made the intruders drop their tools and cover their ears. By the time police arrived, the 3 were unconscious on the floor. The police took the intruders away. They would be charged with breaking and entering. But Jake knew Kyrax would not stop. They suspected something valuable was hidden in the factory. They would keep trying until they found it or until Jake stopped them permanently. Jake called an emergency meeting with his team and Xylara. They gathered in the factory at midnight. Everyone looked worried. We cannot keep this secret forever, Carmen said. Too many people are interested now. Someone will figure it out. So what do we do? Marcus asked. Jake looked around at the faces of his friends. These people trusted him. They had followed him into danger because they believed in what they were building. He owed them honesty. We go public, Jake said. We tell Earth's government about the archive. We announce it to the galaxy. We make it clear that this is human territory and human technology. We dare anyone to try to take it from us. That will start a war, Xylara said quietly. Maybe, Jake said, but hiding will start a war too. Just one where we lose because we are not prepared. At least if we go public, we control the message. We can build support. We can make allies. Danny smiled. I like it. Let us show the galaxy what humans can do. The demand started arriving within hours of Earth's announcement. The Drachen Empire sent an official message to Earth's government. The language was polite, but the meaning was clear. Surrender the archive or face consequences. They gave Earth 2 weeks to comply. Jake sat in a government conference room with military leaders and scientists. The room had high ceilings and walls covered with displays showing data from across the solar system. Everyone looked tense. Earth had never faced a direct threat from a major galactic power before. General Morrison, head of Earth Defense, spoke first. We have 12 functional warships in orbit. The Draken can bring 50 times that number if they want. We cannot win a military confrontation. Then we build more ships, Jake said. The archive can produce components fast. With the right team, we could have 20 Phoenix-class vessels ready in a month. 20 ships against hundreds, someone said. That is still suicide. Not if our ships are better, Danny said. He had come to the meeting as an advisor on ship combat. The Phoenix is faster and more maneuverable than anything the Draken have. One of our ships could take on 3 or 4 of theirs. The president leaned forward. Can you prove that, Mr. Ortiz? Danny grinned. Give me a chance to fight and I will prove it. The decision was made. Earth would not surrender the archive. Instead, they would prepare to defend it. Jake and his team were given unlimited resources to build a fleet. The factory in Detroit became the center of the largest construction project in human history. Workers arrived from all over Earth. Engineers, welders, programmers, pilots. Everyone wanted to be part of building humanity's defense. Jake organized them into teams. Carmen ran the software division. Marcus oversaw fabrication. Lisa coordinated between different groups. Danny started training pilots. The archive worked around the clock. Its fabrication systems produced ship components at a pace that seemed impossible. Hulls were completed in days instead of months. Engine assemblies that should take weeks were ready in hours. The archive seemed to understand the urgency. Xylara stayed on Earth despite messages from her family demanding she return home. The Draken government had declared her a traitor for supporting Earth. Her assets in Draken space had been frozen. She could never go back. Jake found her one evening standing alone in the factory, watching workers assemble a new ship. You okay? He asked. I gave up everything for this, Xylara said quietly. My home, my family, my fortune. Part of me wonders if I made the right choice. You chose what was right over what was easy, Jake said. That takes courage. Xylara turned to look at him. Do you think we can win this? Honestly, I do not know. But I know we have to try, because if we surrender now, humans will never be free. We will always be the species that gave up when things got hard. 3 weeks after the announcement, the Draken fleet arrived. 48 warships took position just outside Earth's orbit. They were massive vessels designed to project power across star systems. Beside them, Earth's 12 old warships looked like toys. But Earth also had 15 Phoenix-class ships now. They were smaller than the Draken warships, sleeker, built for speed rather than intimidation. Danny commanded the lead ship. Jake was in the factory watching through communication feeds. The Draken admiral sent a final message to Earth. You have 1 hour to surrender the archive. If you refuse, we will take it by force. Your primitive vessels cannot stop us. Earth's president responded simply. The answer is no. The Draken fleet moved forward. They came in a standard battle formation, confident in their overwhelming numbers. Earth's old warships held position near the planet, ready to defend if the line broke. The Phoenix ships shot forward to meet the enemy. Jake watched the displays showing ship positions. The Phoenix vessels moved like a school of fish, coordinated but fluid. They did not try to match the Draken formation. Instead, they scattered, each ship moving independently at speeds the Draken could not match. The first Draken ship to fire missed completely. The Phoenix it targeted was already somewhere else. Return fire from the Phoenix was precise. It hit the Draken ship's engine section, not destroying it but crippling it. The Draken vessel drifted out of formation. The Draken adjusted their tactics. They tried to surround individual Phoenix ships, using their numbers to trap the faster vessels. It did not work. The human pilots, trained by Danny, flew like they were born in space. They used the Phoenix's acceleration to escape traps before they closed. They attacked weak points in Draken formations and disappeared before return fire could hit them. Carmen monitored all the ship systems from the factory. Everything is performing beyond expectations, she said. The architect engines are not even at 50% capacity. Our pilots could do this all day. The battle lasted 3 hours. No Phoenix ships were destroyed. 7 Draken warships were disabled. their engines or weapon systems damaged beyond immediate repair. The Draken admiral finally ordered a retreat. His ships pulled back beyond the orbit of Mars. Earth erupted in celebration. People danced in the streets. The species that everyone said was primitive had just defeated the most powerful military force in the sector. The Draken Empire, unbeaten for centuries, had been forced to retreat by humans in ships built in an old car factory. But Jake did not celebrate. He knew this was just the beginning. The Draken would return with more ships. Other powers would take notice. Earth had proven it could defend itself once, but staying free would require constant vigilance. Messages started arriving from across the galaxy. The Vrin Collective sent congratulations and a request for an alliance. Several independent worlds asked about purchasing Phoenix-class ships. The Mechanist Guild sent a carefully worded message suggesting that perhaps Earth should be granted full membership. In galactic trade organizations, most surprising was a message from within the Draken Empire itself. A group calling themselves the Reform Council reached out through secret channels. They said that many Draken had been inspired by Earth's stand. They wanted to change how the Empire treated other species. They asked for Earth's support. Zilara read the message with tears in her eyes. "My people are not all like the Empire's leaders," she said. "Some of us want something better. Maybe your victory will give them courage to speak up." Earth's government established the Architect Research Initiative with Jake as director. His job was to continue studying the archive and developing new technology. But the government also understood something important. The archive was powerful, but it was not unlimited. Earth needed allies if it wanted to remain free. Jake proposed creating the Free Species Alliance. It would be a coalition of worlds committed to mutual defense and fair trade. Any species could join if they agreed to respect the sovereignty of member worlds. The alliance would share architect technology, but only with members who proved they would use it responsibly. The Vrin Collective was the first to join. They had suffered under Draken expansion for decades. Having Earth as an ally gave them hope. 3 independent worlds joined next. Then 2 more. Within a month, the Free Species Alliance had 12 members. The Draken Empire watched these developments with growing concern. They had expected Earth to remain isolated. Instead, Earth was building a power block that could challenge Draken dominance. The Empire had 2 choices. They could attack again with overwhelming force, risking a wider war, or they could negotiate. The Draken Reform Council sent another message. This time they had support from several major noble houses. They offered to arrange peace talks if Earth would agree to share some architect technology. Specifically, they wanted access to medical systems. A plague was spreading through the Draken homeworlds. Traditional medicine was not stopping it. Architect medical technology might save millions of lives. Jake brought the request to Earth's government. Some leaders wanted to refuse. Why help the people who had tried to conquer Earth? But others, including Jake, saw an opportunity. If Earth helped the Draken with their plague, it would show that humans could be generous in victory. It might lead to real peace instead of just a temporary ceasefire. Zilara spoke at the government meeting. She described the plague's effects, how it killed slowly and painfully, how it affected young and old alike. "Please," she said, "I know my people have done terrible things, but they are still people. They have families, children. They deserve mercy even if they did not show it to others." The vote was close, but Earth agreed to help. Jake worked with the archive to produce medical fabrication systems. The technology was carefully limited. It could cure the plague, but could not be used to create weapons or military equipment. Earth sent the systems to the Draken with a message. "This is what cooperation looks like. We hope you will remember this." 3 months later, the Draken Empire agreed to peace talks. They would recognize Earth's sovereignty and the independence of all Free Species Alliance members. In exchange, Earth would provide limited access to architect medical and agricultural technology. Trade routes would be opened. Drake and companies could do business with Earth, but on equal terms, not as conquerors. It was not perfect peace. There was still suspicion on both sides. Some Draken still believed they should rule the galaxy. Some humans wanted revenge for 50 years of subordination, but it was a start, a chance to build something better than what had existed before. 2 years passed. The galaxy changed slowly but surely. The Free Species Alliance grew to 23 member worlds. Trade between species increased as mutual trust developed. The Draken Empire went through internal reforms. pushed by citizens who wanted a different relationship with their neighbors. The old way of dominating other species was losing popularity among younger Draken, who had grown up seeing humans as equals rather than servants. Jake still worked in the factory in Detroit, though it had expanded dramatically. What started as one building now covered several blocks. Multiple fabrication centers operated around the clock. Hundreds of people worked there, building ships and equipment for Earth and the Alliance. But the original building, the place where Jake had first found the portal, remained special. That was where the real work happened, where new discoveries were made, where the future took shape. Jake had learned much about the archive in 2 years. It was more than just a manufacturing facility. It was a teaching system designed by the architects to help younger species advance. The archive had explained its true purpose to Jake one day, when he asked why the architects had built these vaults. We saw the pattern of galactic civilization, the archive had told him through its interface. Species rise to power, establish dominance, and then stagnate. Innovation slows. Exploration stops. Society becomes comfortable and rigid. We left our vaults as seeds of change. They activate for species that show curiosity, adaptability, and wisdom. You humans triggered this vault not because you are superior to other species, but because you approached it with the right combination of qualities. Jake had shared this information with Earth's leaders in the Alliance. It changed how people thought about the archive. This was not just a lucky find. It was a test and humanity had passed. The responsibility of that realization weighed on Jake. The architects had trusted humans with their legacy. Humans needed to prove worthy of that trust. The archive revealed something else. Earth's vault was not the only active site. There were others scattered across the galaxy, dormant and waiting. The architects had designed the vaults to respond to species ready for advancement. Jake wondered if other species might activate vaults soon. The galaxy might be on the edge of a new era, where multiple species gained access to architect technology. Carmen knocked on Jake's office door one morning. She looked excited. "We found something in the archive database, a message that was locked until we reached a certain level of understanding. It just opened." Jake followed her down to the portal chamber. The main interface displayed text that Jake had never seen before. It was a message from the architects themselves, recorded millions of years ago but preserved perfectly. To whoever reads this, the message began. "You have proven yourselves capable of using our technology responsibly. You have not destroyed yourselves with power. You have not conquered others simply because you can. You have chosen cooperation and growth. This makes you candidates for the next phase." The next phase. "What does that mean?" Carmen asked. The message continued. "We architects were once like you, young and ambitious. We discovered the technology of those who came before us. We used it to become great. But we also learned a terrible truth. Greatness without purpose leads to emptiness. We had all the power we needed, but we had lost the sense of wonder that made us explore in the first place. So we left our vaults as gifts and challenges. We hope you will use them to become something better than we were. Do not just gain power. Use it to build a civilization that values curiosity, compassion, and growth." The message ended there. Jake stood in silence for a long time. The architects had not vanished mysteriously. They had transcended somehow, or left, or simply moved beyond the concerns of physical civilization. They had left their vaults as a final gift to species that came after, a way to skip some of the painful mistakes and focus on what really mattered. Jake shared the message with the Alliance Council. The reaction was thoughtful. These were leaders who understood responsibility. They saw the architect message not as validation, but as a challenge. Having power was not enough. They needed to use it wisely. The council made a decision. The Free Species Alliance would establish the Architect Heritage Program. Its purpose was not just to study and use architect technology, but to help other species do the same. If other vaults activated, the Alliance would offer support rather than competition. The goal was to lift all species together, not just benefit Alliance members. Zylara was appointed as the program's first director. She had proven herself capable and trustworthy. Her perspective as a Draken who chose principle over power made her perfect for the role. She would work with species across the galaxy to help them prepare for possible vault discoveries. Jake was relieved to hand off some of his responsibilities. He loved working with technology, but politics and diplomacy exhausted him. He was much happier in the factory, building things and solving problems. Carmen took over day-to-day management of the archive research. Marcus ran the production facilities. Lisa coordinated between Earth and Alliance partners. Danny led the training program for new pilots. Jake spent more time in the factory basement working directly with the archive. He discovered that the system could teach as well as build. It showed him principles of physics and engineering that human science had not yet discovered. Not all at once, but gradually as he demonstrated readiness to understand. It was like having a mentor who knew exactly how much to teach at the right moment. One evening, Jake was alone in the archive when Zylara came to find him. She had news. The Draken Empire has officially apologized for attempting to take the archive by force. It is the first time in centuries that the Empire has apologized to anyone for anything. Jake smiled. Your Reform Council did good work. They are not my council. I am a citizen of Earth now, remember? But Zylara's eyes showed warmth. Still, it is good to see my birth species changing for the better. Maybe there is hope for everyone. They stood together looking at the archive chamber. So much had changed because of this place. Not just technology, though that was impressive. But attitudes, beliefs, the understanding that cooperation produced better results than domination. That was the real gift the architects had left. What will you do now? Zylara asked. You could retire rich and famous. You have earned it, Jake laughed. Retire at 35. I'm just getting started. There is so much more to learn, so much more to build. The archive says there are entire sections of its database that I have not accessed yet. Advanced manufacturing techniques, new materials, energy systems that make fusion look primitive. You really love this, do you not? The work itself. Not the fame or influence. I love fixing problems. Building things that should not be possible. Making stuff work better. That is what I have always done. Now I just get to do it with better tools. Carmen and the rest of the original team joined them. They had been working late on a new project. A mining ship for a Vryn colony that needed to extract resources from an asteroid field. The ship would be smaller than the Phoenix but more specialized. Perfectly suited to its task. Ready to see it, Carmen asked. They went upstairs to the main factory floor. The mining ship sat in Bay 3. It was elegant in a utilitarian way. Every line served a purpose. No wasted space or unnecessary complexity. It was exactly what it needed to be and nothing more. Beautiful, Jake said. When do we test it? Tomorrow. Danny wants to fly it personally. He says he needs to test the maneuvering systems in a real asteroid field. Marcus thinks Danny just wants an excuse to fly something new. Everyone laughed. Danny's love of flying was legendary. He would test anything that had engines and a pilot seat. His enthusiasm had saved lives during the battle with the Draken fleet. His joy in flying made him fearless when others might panic. The team went to a nearby restaurant to celebrate the completion of another project. It was a small place that served food from multiple worlds. Earth cuisine mixed with Draken spices and Vryn vegetables. The blend of cultures in one meal symbolized what they were building. A galaxy where differences enhanced rather than divided. During dinner, Lisa mentioned that 2 more independent worlds had applied to join the Free Species Alliance. One was a species called the Keth who lived on ocean worlds. The other was the Tarn, silicon-based beings who communicated through electromagnetic fields. Both species had been marginalized by the major powers. Both saw the alliance as a chance for real representation. The galaxy is changing faster than I expected, Zylara said. 5 years ago, the idea of humans leading a multi-species alliance would have been considered absurd by most people. Humans are not leading, Jake corrected. We are participating. There is a difference. We found the archive, yes, but what we build with it belongs to everyone who chooses to work with us. That is exactly the attitude the architects hoped for, Zylara said. Power used to enable others rather than control them. That is rare in galactic history. They talked late into the evening, about projects underway, about species they had met, about the future they were building together. It was good to pause and reflect. To remember that they were not just building ships and technology. They were building relationships, trust, a new way of organizing galactic society based on respect rather than dominance.